Hello, everybody. Okay, just to tell a quick story about our recent creative writing Ignite Your Writing Power training workshop for the children. How did it come about? First, as you know, we Nurture Kid trains teachers and schools in cutting edge creative writing practices and how to teach creative writing as it's done all over the world, as it's done internationally, as they do it in the Western world, especially. How come it is that these people write better, their children write better, their children seem to have skills, certain understanding that our own children on this other on our shows do not have. Their teachers have a certain way that they teach them creative writing that makes them better writers. Even those of us here who eventually become gurus, become bestsellers, to a large extent, more often than not, like the Chimamandas Adichie, for instance, more often than not, have learned certain templates. By the time they get to the place where they want to begin trying out their hands in writing bestsellers, they begin to hand them certain templates that they can use. And they begin to show them certain things that are expected of them. They're expected in their work if it's going to turn out a best-selling book, if it's going to stand a chance at being a best-selling book. So these are some of the things we begin to teach our children. We begin to teach the schools, begin to teach our schools a different way, a different model, a different method of teaching creative writing, a way that works, a way that makes them better writers, that gives them the hands and the skills to become better writers. And then, of course, the more they are better writers, what you're actually handing our children, is skills, cogent tools, skills that are for life skills that keep paying, that keep giving and giving. I mean, if you're a good writer, it goes to show that you will ace certain interview, letters. You want a job, and they're asking you to send in certain letters, certain cover letters, certain this and that in written form. The fact that you're a good writer, that you've been handed writing skills, helps you to ace that, helps you to get noticed, helps you to get to the next level with these things. You want a scholarship and you need to write certain cover letters. The same thing. You want to create proposals. You want to write letters, proposal letters, explaining what you do so that you can get to the next level in your career, in what you do, whatever it is that you do. Whether you're a medical doctor, you're an architect, or you're whatever it is that you do, you need, and you need to be able to present what it is that you do in writing, or even in pitches, in speeches, in pitches, where you script what you're going to say, and you say them in such a way that, or you're intentional with what you're going to say, even if you don't exactly script them, but you need to be intentional to understand how to say what you need to say, in order that you can get people to make certain decisions, that you want them to make. You want people to make certain decisions that favor you. You want your writing to get people to do a certain thing. You want a call to action, and you want them to respond to that call to action. How do you equip children to be able to do this? Now, what we've been doing in the past is equipping teachers and schools to teach creative writing differently, to teach it in the way that is effective, in the way that these schools, that their contemporaries, teach creative writing all over the world, outside of our shores, in the ways that we've discovered that is being taught outside of our shores. So we're bringing those here, that system here, that method here, so that we can up our game in creative writing, bridge those learning gaps, and teach it just as well as they teach it elsewhere. You know, in order, of course, to equip our children to be great writers, to be just as great writers as they can be, as their counterparts, as their peers all across the globe. Now, the thing about it is, the last creative writing course I did for Nurture Kid, the last seminar workshop we held for teachers, there are quite a number of parents who happened to join the program. And on joining the program, they did ask me, Mrs. Adikune, would you please do something for children, especially as summer is around the corner? Would you please do something for children so that, we can handle the children's headlong? I'm going to take the materials that I've learned from you and hand them to their teachers and even invite their teachers for your workshops. But aside from that, I want to also be able to help them at home. I may not have, that time, but I want to ensure that it's done, whether from school or from home or roundabout, either way. I want to ensure that it's done. Can you please handle something like that? And I did promise that I would, at some point, if not this summer, another summer, but I would let the people in question know when I was doing something like that. And somehow, you know how you make a promise, and you don't really want to keep postponing the fulfillment of that promise. You don't want to keep moving it forward. At least I am like that. If I make a promise, I'd like to not make a promise at all. But if I do make a promise, I'd rather do it earlier than later. So this summer, I didn't really have the time. The summer was full for me. I wasn't hands free at all. But my mind kept going back to the promise that I had made. I didn't want a situation where, I had made that promise and people keep looking to see, okay, has she offered something? Is she offering something? And she still hasn't. I didn't want that situation. So I needed to deal with that. That, and also the fact that I have 3 children, you see, and out of my 3 children, my first, I have groomed in creative writing over the years. I remember when I started with her, it wasn't something she was interested in. She said to me, "Mommy, you're the writer in the house." I found that very amusing. Not only amusing, I also did find it quite painful. How can my child tell me I'm not interested in writing? I'm not interested in being an expert writer. I'm not interested in being, a better than average writer. I'm not even interested in this writing thing you're talking about. It's possible that she was a bit intimidated because by the time you start to hear people talk about certain things, over and over, a bit more than you know about it, it can get intimidating. Like, you mean there's more to this thing than what I do already? It can get intimidating. And I couldn't help but notice, it was glaring, the fact that a lot of times the schools do not really handle these things properly. The schools themselves are not equipped, to handle some of those things. And my children's school at the time just wasn't open to having very many workshops. Yes, so I don't know, for obvious reasons, which I understood, but I said to myself, okay, because I was willing at the time to teach to bring my workshops to my children's school for free, but for some reason, they were protective of their turf. And you know how it is. There's a lot of stories about people who have come in and done things before you know it. They start their own school, and they take their students with them. So I could understand their pain. I could understand their fears. So what do I do? On the other hand, I began to seek to teach my daughter by herself. At the time, she was rife, you know. And then not only was she rife, I mean, in my house, there's storytelling, constant storytelling going on. My children watch a lot of intentional, intentional television programming. We use television to teach them a lot of things. We use even movies, intentional movie watching, to teach them a lot of things. So I knew that creative storytelling was something that had become natural for my children. But it's one thing to show them that creative storytelling is the same thing that translates into, is the beginning, is the start of excellence, of good creative writing. To marry the two was something the schools hadn't done for them. So I needed to bring some intervention to bear for my children, you know. So, but for my daughter, I had worked on her at an earlier age. We had gone through all that. Mommy, no, not me. Mommy, no, not me. To the point where she began to get interested. Gradually, she began to get interested. Oh, need I say that I also did? I also had to start praying for her, And then eventually she became interested. And then from becoming interested, we started to work on it. I started to show her certain things. As I speak, my daughter is a better writer than I am because she took it farther than the things that I taught her. She researches by herself. At 12, she'll be telling me about the protagonist. She'll be talking to me, she'll be talking about matters like theme, protagonist, and things that I didn't teach her, things I hadn't taught her. So she would tell a story and 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 tell another, and she would just go on and on and on and on. If I told her, give me another word instead of this, she would give me, fantastic, appropriate words. If I told her I want another sentence opener for this, she would give me, she would, give me much better than I imagined, much better than I was expecting. So she became so good at this. And her creative level, her creative storytelling took another dimension. Like I said, when you teach a child a thing and you teach it well, the child will take it beyond what you've taught them and grow from there and take it way beyond what you've taught them, and interpret it in their own way. Interpret it farther and farther and bloom and blossom much farther than you can imagine. So the important thing is to get the process going. Once the process is going and you're giving it your best, you keep at it until you come to a logical conclusion. You have a plan. You come to the end of that logical plan. You think that's the end. It really isn't the end. It takes off from there and grows and grows and grows, and the child begins to blossom and blossoms and becomes something else. At the end of the day, they remember how it all started. Almost as though by the time they tell you how it started, you can almost not relate the start of it to how far it has come. That was the story with my daughter. But you see, I had achieved that with my daughter. The next thing was my boys. The school I remember in primary 4, primary 5, can we beat that? In primary 4, primary 5, they had textbooks that would say, composition textbooks that would say, to talk about myself, they would say, or to talk about my dog. The textbooks would say, the name of my dog is Dash. My dog has dash legs. The skin, the color of my dog's skin is dash. Like that. And I found it alarming that I don't even think I would ever use a book like that to teach creative writing. More so at that age, primary 4. Primary 4, if you must use a book like that to give the children an idea, to model some kind of thing for them, why not in perhaps, nursery 2? Perhaps nursery 2. Even in nursery 2, children should be able to come up with all kinds of different writings. Children should be able to start an essay, even in nursery 2, with an exclamation mark. With the first sentence, with an exclamation for his first sentence. For goodness sake, why not? Children should have a lot more flair because at that age, they're speaking from they should be taught to speak from their heart. The way they talk is so interesting. The way children talk is so interesting. Let them talk like that. When a child writes, you should be able to see to a large extent how old that child is. What age that child is. You should have a wide guess. You should have a quick understanding of what age it is you're dealing with. Yes, But by the time you tell children to write something similar across the board, 20 children in your class, 15, 10, 20, 15, 10 to 20 children in your class, and they're writing, basically the same kind of, creative thinking. I mean, the same kind of idea. The name of my dog is this. Or you do write about my family, you say, the name of my family is this. We're how many in my family? There's my father, my mother, and my sister. This my, that this is how old they are. We live at number this. Come on, come on. There's no creativity in that, and there's no accolade to be given that sort of thing. To be given to that sort of thing. So how do you work on something like that? So I had the situation where with my daughter, I had ingrained it in her early on. So before she began to see those textbooks, if she saw those sort of textbooks, she had already learned to go beyond that sort of writing. So she wasn't boxed in, But with my younger children, the boys, they had that situation. And I remember one of them would be so adamant, Mommy, this is how my teacher said I should do it. Mommy, so the child was actually rejecting what I was teaching them. But I knew better at it than the teacher did, So, and that was very painful for me. Now, I've had to deal with that over time and ignore it. At some point I had to go to see the teacher and explain, hey, this is what I think. Can you, if you're going to, which is, if the other children in your class are at this level, my child is not at this level, can you please allow him, if he wants to express himself beyond here? Because when I tried to get him to do that, he says, my teacher. And then I was able to get the teacher to be on the same page as myself, and, he began to express himself a little more. But even at that, he was still curtailed, because as long as I was concerned, he wanted to follow what everybody else was doing. So I knew that at some point I was going to have to do some kind of intervention for my children by myself. But the thing was, how would I do it so that they would listen? In such a way that they would actually listen and not be encumbered by what their teacher has said or what their class was doing. Understanding that if they did this, I did better at it, and and became good at it, and presented the new learning in class, their teacher would not have a problem with it. So how do I do that? So the only way I could do that was to plan something where they would have other children, and then they would see how other children wrote. And then they would also see how other children were taking what I was teaching. You understand? They will see how, if I presented a teaching, if I presented a topic or a thing, other children will take it in, and then they will see how, once they saw that other children were taking it in, they too would want to take it in and experiment with it. And by the time you experiment, that's the thing with creative writing. If you experiment with it and you like what you've written, you see that you're doing better at this writing thing, you would want to do the same. You would want to imbibe it. So that's what I wanted to do. And that's how come, apart from the fact that people had asked me to hold summer classes for children so their children could join. Apart from that, the second other reason was the fact that, I also need intervention for my own children. For my own children. So I don't know which one was stronger than the other. I don't know which one was stronger. Whether my commitment to serve another fellow, or my anxiety for the intervention that my children required. So the two of them, those two reasons came together, came to bear, and birth the Nurture Kit ignites my creative writing power. So what I did, what happened was, sometimes that happens to me. This particular night, I just knew that, it just dawned on me that summer is almost rounding off. If I don't do this now, it will not happen again until probably the next summer. And who knows, what the next summer may bring. There may be so many other things that I need to do in the next summer. And who knows, my own children may also have gone beyond the place where you can repair the damage. Yeah. So also with the other children that their parents were concerned, I didn't want them to get any closer to beyond repair than that was than I could help. So I said, okay, let me quickly do something about it. So that in a quick huff, I made up my mind to do something. I think we had just 2 weeks to go for summer to end, or a little over 2 weeks to go for summer to end. So I decided to quickly put something together. So I created an advert and put it out. The idea that advert was out for about a weekend. Yeah, for the weekend, it was the program was supposed to start on Monday. So the advert went out, I think, on a Friday. It ran Saturday, Sunday, and the thing started on Monday. The advert wasn't boosted. It wasn't boosted. It wasn't. I wanted to serve a handful of people. First of all, the people who had asked me, and then my children, really. The people who had asked me, the children of those people who had asked me specifically, just so I could check mark the fact that I'd done it. Oh, that I'd done it. So check mark that, and then also work on my own children's intervention. So it was their children and my children. But while at it, who else? Who I wanted to also make it open for anybody else who may be interested. For that short time, because I didn't want too many people at a time. It was a maiden edition. I didn't want too many people at a time. So we launched it. At the end of the day, we had about altogether, let's say about 15, 16 kids. Yeah, 15, 16 kids. So unfortunately, the 15, 16 kids, not all of them were able to actually be present for several reasons. Some hadn't returned, from their travels. Some, all kinds of things. Anyway, so but actively we had about 10 to 12 children active, and that was all I required, all that was needed for me to get it going. It was a beautiful outing. It was a beautiful outing. It worked in the sense of intervention for all the children. All the children needed the intervention one way or another in different levels. And it worked. The fact that all of them were together learning this thing, it worked to get their attention. It worked to get their attention. On the matters at hand, or the matters we're speaking of, and altogether it was fun. The children had fun. The children had exercises, had activities going on. They were both intellectual and fun, and they liked that. It made them feel important, and they learned along the way. From their own words, it felt for them like important yet fun stuff. Important yet fun stuff. I liked the combination of that. It was necessary that we did something like that, something that the children would feel that way about, and in the comfort of their homes, without being overtly academic. Without being overtly academic, we're also stylishly showing children how that learning can be fun, learning can be mature, learning can be interesting. Yes, learning can be altogether fun, and learning is in everyday things. It doesn't have to be laborious. It doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be so. So we had a beautiful time, and that's our report from the Nurture Kit Ignite Your Learning Power Summer program. Hoping that we will do this again next summer, in which case we'll put out the adverts earlier and have a larger crowd. you know. But so far, so good. We had a great time. Just wanted to bring that report out here so that you can just to just to keep us accountable. This is how far. This is what's up. And keep the information going. Yeah. So thank you for listening. Do have a beautiful beginning of term. Do have a beautiful first term in a new session. Praying the best for all the children. Praying safety. Praying clarity, praying readiness, praying preparedness, praying focus for all the children, praying protection for all of them, roundabout in the name of Jesus. May you have a fantastic, beautiful term, beautiful session. Both the children and the parents. God bless.